Okay. Okay, let's start. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's installment of the WSA seminar series. We are so glad that you could have joined us today. So today's presentation is scheduled for about 35 to 40 minutes, which will leave us some time for questions at the end. As we go along, please feel free to leave your questions in the chat, or you can hold on to them and ask them during the dedicated question time at the end of the seminar. Just a quick note, you will have noticed this webinar is being recorded. The recording will be made available shortly after we conclude so that you can watch it again or share it with your colleagues who couldn't attend today. For your convenience, all of our previous sessions have also been made available on YouTube. I will share the link to our YouTube channel in the chat. And finally, I'd like to mention that there is still a few open slots for presenters in our webinar series for this year. If you're interested in sharing your work, please let us know. Okay, so today we have Professor Karine Magalhães. I'm really sorry. And she's presenting her work on rapidly declining seagrass meadows in Brazil. Please take it away, Karine.
Thank you for the invitation. Don't worry, it's Magalhães, but don't worry, it's really hard for me to speak some of the name as well. So, we're talking about today this paper that was published this year, and we have here Emma as well. That is one of the co-authors, and this paper is really about the mapping seagrass, but I think it's more of this because we put together local knowledge and some of the literature that was not available for everyone. So we have, let me try to pass here. Me, Gabriel, and Fabiana that work with us at the Rural University of Pernambuco. And then Emma and Pavel. Emma was at Queen Mary's at the time for her PhD. Now she's at Cambridge in UK, yeah. And doing the map, most of the map satellite things were on her. And also Aline and Terry from King's College that came together to make this paper work. So we we actually want to talk about how to reconstruct long-term seagrass declines and identify these locally specific drivers, especially in this area that we work in South and Global South, that we have this language barrier and we don't publish much in English or to reach people. So we were talking about we have a match there. Argentina is over there, so everyone's much looking for that. But we work here in Brazil in the tropical Atlantic bioregion. We have seagrass, six seagrass, only three hallowed lilies, two allophila, and if you include rupia as a seagrass, rupia as well. Both in coastal areas and estuarine areas. Here we have our bailoni, Alophila bailoni, and here are some of the rupia. Oh, let me see if it's pointed. Can you see my pointer?
Yes, we can see your pointer.
Okay. So all these seagrasses are, oops. All these seagrasses are considered small ones, the small-bodied ones. So they have this rapid turnover, grow fast, but it doesn't really. It's not a problem for ecosystem service because we do have a lot of people depending on these seagrasses in Brazil, as people that the gleaning, and there are a lot of communities that depend on these seagrasses. So we have here the manatee as well. There is a huge part of our conservation issue, and now that seagrasses are disappearing, the manatees are having problem as well. We have seagrasses, but they're not on the map. On this new paper, I think for 2 weeks ago, they said, okay, we're losing a lot of seagrasses. It depends on 29% that we already lost. And this rate is really high on the last few years, but we never hear. So it was a concern. And we had this concern because I actually work on the area, Itamaracá area, and we had this large seagrass meadows that was disappearing. And everyone in Brazil was saying, okay, you have the most well-studied seagrass meadow in Brazil, but they don't show up because they were not published much in English. So we were losing these areas. And here we have this photo that is from the 1969. And we have already some sediment waves, but we had a lot of fishing. We had a lot of manatees in the area and people collecting seagrass for manatee. But then in the 2000s, when I was doing my a few trips for the for PhD, we saw that these areas was getting really larger. And then when I got my students, while I was at the university, I saw that there was not possible to do anything because there was not even a transect possible to do there. There was no seagrass at all. It was just small points. So we saw that, but we didn't know what was causing this. So people from the manatee was not collecting anymore, and people from the community was complaining a lot because they depend on this needlefish a lot. They depended on this needlefish, including the name of this species. A lot of right in Brazil is needle grass because of this fish. They know that they go there and put the eggs there. So we lost everything, and the people were like uh, arguing with the Manatee project that they were destroying everything. So we didn't know, and I didn't know how to prove that. So a few years ago, I was collecting data and diving on the places to try to map. And then Emma came for her PhD, trying to map some areas for Manatee. And then we talked about this, and she did a large mapping. And then after that, I said, okay, can you help me? Can we put this on the map and see how much we lost? And then we talked and we collect. I said I have a lot of data that we collect with the community, and we have a lot of unpublished data that we can actually try to find out what was happening there. So with Aline and the others in our group, we got together and trying to integrate these three things to actually see what was happening in Brazil, in this area in Brazil. So we working to combine this local knowledge and community knowledge, this gray literature and the maps. So Emma, if you want to talk, I think it's possible. She recovered all this Landsat imagery, and she was already working on that. And I said, okay, this area has a loss, and so we went there. But also my students were diving there since the 2018, so we had a lot of points. So we put everything together, classified what was sand, what was seagrass, rock to try to do this timeline. And I also, I actually asked her a lot to put this data together with this map from the 1970s, because it was like, we know there was more seagrass than we see now. So it was hard to do because how I was saying, this paper was published in a small paper in Brazil, in Brazilian paper in Portuguese, and the guy did this map with all the details because he flew the area and he got the maps, and then he did the ground trusting. But it was not possible to put that together, but we tried to actually kept this because in Brazil we don't have these documented seagrass areas long, so we would only have 30 years or something. And then we got together the maps with the local perception, with the community. Were already doing this for another student's work, Gabriel, that he was working with the fish. We were trying to see what was being lost and the perception of these people on the seagrass. So we selected a few questions of these interviews and tried to see if they knew really knew the seagrasses, so we showed some images, and we went to one-to-one interviews. Sometimes they ask for someone, but we try to isolate that. And then we ask for another people that work that knew seagrasses. A few of our questions we actually used to see if they really knew seagrasses, so we would use or not on this. So we have like 104 interviews with some of the researchers, because we also knew that there was a lot of PhDs and works done there and were not published. But these people were still working in Recife and around here. So we asked these people as well, how do they see this lost? And also to get together all these data that was invisible for people, because when we were seeing now, we lost a lot of seagrasses in 2010. What happened there? There was nothing on papers. So I said, okay, we have a lot of stuff in our lab, and we have a lot of great literature in Portuguese. So we actually used the common thing that were the words, and with the Web of Science in Scopus, and was only three matches. So when you put the Portuguese literature, we actually got a lot of data. We use those database from dissertation as everything. So we had a lot more papers or documents to examine it. And then after all the inclusion and exclusion criteria, we end up with 30 reports. And also we put some of the students' work inside, some also papers or other things that we did there, and we had the data in the lab. So we put everything together to put this and see what were the factors leading to seagrass decline. So we put this evidence on temporal lines and observed time, and special with the maps and mechanism plausibilities, and then we try to see if it matched with all the evidence. So we attribute a score high, moderate, and low. And then we actually also to try to mapping each factors, we try to classify in light limitation, turbidity, and eutrophication, physical disturbance, chemical contamination, and hydrodynamic and geomorphic alteration, and also biotic interactions. So after doing that, we end up with 94% of loss in 55 years of study, but with that map, was not really possible to really match with the Landsat imagery. So for the period we have Landsat observation was 80% of lost. So it's a huge loss. And here we have in green the first map, the historical map, were lost between these few final years. And here is in blue, we have this area that we actually work a lot. There's a nice meadow there that's stable, never changed, thankfully. And after that, so we were trying to put this together with the factors we record. They are cumulative, so we actually could match some of the Landsat loss detection with the water quality degradation and the wave energy things here in 2010 and 2000s. And the early phases, we actually linked it with the infrastructure that was really growing in the area. And actually, the industrial area was there as well. It's not more, but anymore, but there was a lot of industry activities there. So accumulating here, we see that we have this area here, but we have really a gap here when we lost a lot of seagrass. I think 64% of seagrass was lost there. So people were always saying manatee project, conservation project, they were taking the planets, and they are the main cause. But as we see, they were here, and there are a lot of other pressures like construction, and the water quality was getting lower. So when you put the factors that we were trying to contribute to the seagrass loss, we found 17 of these factors, and most are the common ones, common worldwide: the fishing, tourism, recreation, and the coastal infrastructure. But the beauty of this thing that bringing together great literature that is that we could see that Manatee project was really really cited as a problem, and probably was a problem. I mean, it is a problem, but we couldn't actually put some name on it, because if you come here and see in literature, there's nothing, almost nothing there. It's almost all the people saying, as well as the community and researcher doesn't speak much of this tourism things and the infrastructure and sugar cultivation. So it's important to link all these sources to actually find these factors. And this mechanical removal of seagrasses, it was really a large amount collected. See, here we see how the guys did. They were just going there and taking all the seagrasses and putting on these places in the pools for the manatees. So it started really a long time ago, because we had one manatee in a public square, but it was just one. But after the project really grew, there was a lot of manatees there. So there was a lot of seagrass, over 12 tons a year. And this harvest stopped only when the seagrass was really disappearing. I remember that I went there for when they asked me to help what was happening. And we saw that these guys were taking all the seagrasses without thinking. They were taking the whole plant and everything. So it was really destroying. So we talked with them at the time, and then we asked them to use masks and see and take only some leaves, not the whole plant, and only feed animals that were going to go back to the nature, because we had a lot of manatees that were just going to stay there for life, so they shouldn't be fed with these plants. So it stopped, and the constructors, the anchoring, now we see here the construction is like they have a lot of areas that people build on the beach, so it moves a lot of sediments and it's horrible. The dragging is not really common there, but happens as well, and anchoring is really common there as well. Was that? And then fishing activities are uh, another problem. We have these places that they put these woods traps for fish on the seagrass as well. It's really common in everyone in northeast Brazil. And we have the nets, but we have the gleaning. But now we have these guys here. They are really destroying much, because they use this gerere, we call it, and they go in the grass and take everything. So they leave a track of destruction, and they actually get a lot of production, but destroying everything. Most common was just some people sitting there and taking with their hands, but now I think the men are coming from the fishing that they used to do outside, and then they're not going outside to fish anymore, and they are actually coming to the gleaning. There was most women that did on the past. So we have this there, and they also have these changes that happening here as well. So we have these green areas, and they all are exposed all the time. But actually, we've seen that a lot more now, that are burning the seagrasses. So something's changing. Maybe also sediment is arriving there, but we are leaving a lot of seagrass as well. But this was not really found in our paper, but we actually saw happening. And there are a lot of other factors that appeared, like the oil spill we had in 2019. but because it was when they had to stop fishing, so they really had this on mind, and that actually the cleaning process, I think it was worse than the oil itself, because they put a lot of effort, and they got everything, including seagrasses, during the cleaning process. So these were the factors, and the perception of the people that we were losing seagrasses was really high. I mean, most are high. Some didn't respond, but the people that responded were saying it was high, and some were disappearing, really disappearing. Um, this high here is like because the older people, especially, they used to see seagrass every time the tide went down, and now it was low, and now it's not seen anymore. We don't see much seagrasses anymore over there. So there's this difference between the ages that we see the people, but there was no difference between men and women perceptions, because we didn't have much of these women answers in these question interviews. Most of the researchers also said we losing seagrass, but the perception was varying. But most of people say we losing seagrasses. I didn't get the time because I didn't ask you how many minutes we're gonna have. So what we take from this study we did was that no single data set is sufficient to reconstruct this. So we would have a map, we had a map, but when we integrated the remote sensing, the historical records, the gray literature, and the local community knowledge, we could reconstructing what was happening there. And some of the drivers that we found there, the local drivers for the client that we found that they are different from the other areas. So it's really stand up that the need would see special cases where local declines are happening. And improving this global synthesis must have this multidisciplinary research team like we had, collaborative and multilingual, because most of the data we have here is not available for you out abroad because it's in Portuguese. So we go and lose. And it's a huge thing for not only Brazil, but I bet most people in Africa or in Asia, South Asia, the global South countries, English is a really barrier for us to publish. So many of my students just cannot publish really after the PhD or master, and they disappear. Not today, but a few years ago. So much of the knowledge we have when the matter was really on its best state, it's lost in our libraries in Portuguese PhD dissertations. And for future conservation strategies, we should integrate in this ecological monitoring and continue and use this knowledge based on support evidence based on for conservation, because we need these people that are there and know things. We actually use a lot of knowledge, local knowledge, to map seagrasses as well. Uh, and if you don't have seagrasses, they go away. So they're doing different things, and we losing all this knowledge. And actually, what we're doing now at this area is that we're doing some restoration tests now. Part of my team is there right now. They are checking our first transplantations in Tamaracá Island. And we keeping this long-term community engagement. And actually, we are at this moment filming a documentary on women gleaners, because after all this exchange of knowledge, we end up saying, okay, we have to give some space for them to talk. And the women gleaner are really engaged. They have a lot of issues, like during the COVID, they were not allowed to go in there in cleaning, and then they were like it's what we do. We need to communicate, and then they put depression and all of stuff. And so we're doing this documentary now, blue carbon quantification. We're finishing this pollution monitoring there because a lot of plastic everywhere. So we're doing as well. And right now we're starting some metabolic coding and us actually also brew and filming the fish to see if our restoration is actually helping for us to recover these seagrass areas. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Professor Karine. Do we have any questions? No one yet? Oh, there we are. We've got a question in the chat. Anitra has a question. What would be particularly useful? Oh, sorry, I think it's more of a comment. What would be particularly useful is the species which was degraded and the number of hectares of each. The differing seagrasses you have sequestered differing amounts of blue carbon. Did
Okay.
you, yeah, did you by any chance?
Actually, we have most is a lot haloduli. So we have a lot of haloduli right all of the places. So it's haloduli that we work in it, that we're losing more. We have alophila, but it's really well not bad as well. So, but they come and go, and we actually found out a lot of new populations of Bailoni that we thought we didn't have anymore. So it's mostly haloduli.
Ben?
Amazing talk. Loved that. That was really, really interesting. Pretty jarring though, the sheer amount of seagrass loss that you've had. Do you think there's any what's the word? Sort of cognitive dissonance between, are the fishers that are doing the sort of destructive activities, are they aware that they're sort of declining, ruining their own habitats that they need to depend on?
And they actually say the other guy is doing so. It's like the gleaning girl, the ladies, they say there's the guys with those GDDs, and the fishmen with the nets, they say there is the bomb guys. We had bombs, fishing bombs there as well. So it's always like that, but they don't actually say we did it. No. And they really have I think in Brazil, maybe a lot of other places, we have this thing with people, the authorities. So they don't like the people from the project because they were authorities and they were like, oh, you cannot do that. Oh, so they are like they destroying.
We've found the same thing with, local knowledge across Southeast Asia, in the Western Indian Ocean as well, where particularly gleaners, they can't imagine a future where seagrass isn't there. So even if it is declining, it'll come back because their livelihoods are so intertwined with it that future scenario of no seagrass is just, they can't imagine it. They can't admit that there's change. But no, really interesting. And I suppose the other element of it that I find quite interesting is that the manatee stuff, it's like a similar process to this wave of turtle conservation that's having impacts on seagrass across the globe. And there's all these unintended consequences of conservation that nobody's really talking about. So it's really nice to hear that story too. Not nice,
Yeah,
but I
but
mean, it's interesting.
I know, and I actually was part of it because I cannot do much. I was always saying don't collect the seagrass like that and everything, but actually, the minds changed, so the knowledge changed. So now they are really helping us to plant seagrasses, transplant seagrasses, and they are actually trying to map seagrasses. So it changed. They don't go there and take seagrasses anymore. Thank God.
But no, brilliant,
Where do they
brilliant
take
study.
where do they take their seagrasses from now then? Like if since they stop do they still collect it from the wild?
No, I mean, not Aladuli anymore. We were trying to do some temporary. We have a lot of rupia here in temporary lagoons. We were trying to see if they eat, but only if they're going to be released. So, and also what changes is that they don't go to the pools anymore. They go to areas in the field, so they protected areas where they have food. So they don't need to collect seagrasses anymore. Sometimes, but not always. So it's like strange. The was different time. Like
Yeah.
we had this manatee. I grew up with the manatee in the public
Oh.
square. That was my Sundays. I love to go there, and the guy was like that, like this, because it was shallow, and
Yeah.
they have a mark that was a burning mark. So I'm good too as well.
But yeah, like you say, different times.
Yes, yes.
Thanks. Anitra, you've got a question.
Yes. The interesting part to me is the number of hectares that were lost in terms of the blue carbon that was lost. And I'm really surprised because Brazil has been one of the most vigorous talking about carbon sequestration in their tropical forests. And I'm just shocked that Brazil is not counting the amount of seagrass blue carbon lost, along with its tropical forest blue carbon loss, and trying to do something with restoration programs. We have a recent paper about Southeast Asia restoration of halidul mostly, but also the other species. The manatees, by the way, eat all 4 species because I was swimming with 4 manatees this morning, and they were definitely in my little swimming area eating Serengodium, Thalassia, halidul, rupia, and halophila. They were going along making long furrows in all of them. But I think the most important thing for you to map is the amount of carbon lost in the sediment, which comes up and is a negative flux with those seagrass lost.
Oh, yeah, thank you. We actually did that a few years ago, 2 years now. We collected cores from this area that lost the seagrasses. And if you remember the blue area on the map, that is always there. It's stable, and then we did that as well. So we're gonna compare. We have the cores analyzed right now. So we're gonna have soon some data on that as well, because I agree with you. It's kind of horrible that the people don't really see the seagrasses, but it's actually a huge problem for us. People in Brazil, they don't recognize the importance of the seagrass. Corals maybe, but it's still a fight. Because, for example, we discover a lot of corals near the Amazon River, and they wanted to explore oil there. So it's like crazy, isn't it? But so if the coral reefs that are known, it's the problem. Imagine for the seagrass. They call it algae and something else here. So we're fighting as well. And most of our work now is to trying to make people notice seagrass. Well, we now got some money to try to replant these, not because of seagrass itself, but for the fish that they lost. That is good. That's actually great. So it's starting to work, I think.
That's encouraging. Happy to hear. Corals are always taking all the spotlight.
I know.
It's a problem in Southeast Asia too. Maru, you've got a question?
Yes, thank you, Karine. It was a very interesting talk. I was wondering, and probably you already replied a bit, but what's the status of seagrass in Brazil? Is any of the species protected by law, or are we anywhere near to have something like that?
Not really. We actually have some marine protected areas, and we actually have a student doing this research now, but they don't even mention the seagrasses in this area. So we have one particular area, there's a coral reef area, that they actually listen and they are trying to protect seagrasses there. But not because of the seagrass, because of the manatee. So I use the manatee all the time to to study the seagrasses. So they losing manatee because they are starving. So now they are worried about seagrasses. So that's the consequence. But no, not really. And we actually have this lovely marginata that is theoretically endemic from here, and we're trying to put it on the map and put it on the protected areas, but it's not really protected at all. Sorry.
Matthew, you've got a question.
Thank you. Yeah, a really interesting talk. Thanks for presenting. One thing I wanted to ask, and I mean, I don't really expect you to have an answer for this because it's something that I think about and haven't come up with an answer with, and I think no one's really kind of fixed it yet. But so a lot of seagrass areas, sort of things like Halophila, these kind of like smaller type species, they tend to be really difficult to map, right? And they're difficult to map compared to super dense meadows of like those larger body type species. And currently, I think certainly satellite-based mapping is probably just missing them all. Are there any conversations that you've had? Are there any kind of just to kind of hear your thoughts on that really as a thing, because it's something that you know, we say we map seagrass, but then it kind of comes back to that, you know, it's like theoretically, like what is a seagrass meadow? Like under what point and what percentage cover, what species do we define as a seagrass meadow? Where do we set that boundary of a mapping, you know, a dense meadow versus a sparse meadow? That kind of, it's, you hear it all the time, right? Dense, sparse, like different percentage covers, but what are we actually mapping here? And I think I'm rambling, but it's an interesting thing to think about. I think, yeah, it'd be great to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's really what happens here, because we have a lovely until I think 10 meters. For this work, we actually used 80 meters deep. So, but Alafla for us goes deeper, and we don't know anything about it. So yeah, we actually have. I'm actually mapping now. Especially some people from Ceará. There's a north from where I am, but we go there and dive. We're still doing that, unfortunately. And Alafila, we find like this. We dive and find, and then we map, but we not actually getting these from this satellite imagery in the Halafila. So basically, we know about Haladuli in Brazil. Haladuli, right? That's what we know. We don't know much. There's some kind of data that is missing, that is there, but I cannot reach as well. That is the oil companies. They do those how to say, I don't know, they go there and take the samples, and I really asked a lot of time for a lot of people to get what they are finding there, because they just say there are plants or algae, because I think that would help us to map what is deeper in Brazil, but we don't have it. And we have some records, but it's from a long time ago. I don't even know how to go there and see where to find these halophilus, for example. Unfortunately.
Can I also comment on that? I don't know if you can hear me well enough, but yeah, I'm Emma. I was one of the co-authors on the paper, so I did some of the mapping as well. And yeah, I think it's a huge problem because when we look at these global maps, we basically, I think they mostly just show these dense seagrass meadows and are maybe a bit biased towards species which are a little bit bigger. But in places like Brazil, we do have these really small species. And I think it's a massive problem in remote sensing. And I also think as the seagrass species begin to decline, they get patchier and patchier, which make them harder and harder to map. And I think Karine's end point on the presentation was that the future of seagrass conservation is not just that we need better maps, but we need better local knowledge. And I think that local knowledge is where the mapping on this project was really, really useful, because we had data from a lot of years. We had like so much local expertise to really look at the maps and say like, this looks right, this doesn't look right. So yeah, I think seagrass mapping, especially for these hard species, like really definitely need people on the ground, like understanding the meadows that they're mapping. Yeah, thanks.
It was really fun, wasn't it? Because she would say, these are seagrasses, and I say, no, it's not, I'm sure. It was nice to do those.
Yeah.
It was really I learned a lot with you, and I think it was like, okay, we gotta go in there, we gotta have to go there and find the seagrasses as well. So
it was very fun field work. I learned a lot about seagrasses and what they were.
Nice.
Did you say you have seagrasses down to 80 meters, or did I mishear you? Sorry.
Eight, not
8,
80.
sorry. I
Oh,
don't know
yeah,
why I heard 80, sorry.
we have I think 40, 45 meters of Halophila records, but old
Wow.
records.
Okay.
We don't have much, and we don't have anything really on Halophila on deep areas now. We have on the estuarine areas. So we find
Okay.
a lot of seagrass in estuarine areas now, all over Brazil.
Cool. Anitra.
Sorry. The Mexicans, Margarita Gallegos in northern Yucatan, has mapped this huge plate of northern Yucatan with drones, underwater drones. And she's found a whole lot of seagrasses which were not found by satellite. But the problem with satellite is they're looking for the red chlorophyll A and chlorophyll, some of the chlorophylls. And actually, the halophila and the halodule and thalassia at depths are photosynthesizing with their carotenoids and their xanthophylls, and they don't give the same signal back to the satellite whatsoever. And so that's why people are having a very hard time identifying, particularly halophila, which goes down to 200 feet. I can't convert that quickly into meters, but I've seen that in Curacao and other places in the Caribbean. So halophila goes a lot deeper than halodule.
Yes. Yeah, we here as well. They go really deep, but we cannot. We don't have this drone thing yet, but we know a lot of people that they're actually using it. So we're trying to reach these people and trying to see what's there, because they mapping the reefs. So I think if we have access to the image, we can actually see, because people here in Brazil still think that the halophilas are caulerpas algae. So they just see and okay, caulerpa, and then they misclassified it as well, misidentified in some
but
when there's no seagrass expert.
That's a really good idea, to partner with the reef people who are used to going down and mapping with the drone, and give them a little information about the seagrass, and then let them do the mapping for you.
Yes, yeah. It works on this APA that Emma knows as well, the APA Costa dos Corais. That is a reef area, marine protected area. There, people know because of the manatees, so they actually see. When I go to a meeting there, they say, okay, we saw seagrass over there, we saw seagrass on that beach, so it's helping. But really, yeah, we have to actually train people to see the seagrass because they don't, they just see algae. They just see and say it's an algae, and they just put their percent cover algae, poof, and then we lose this data. We don't have much seagrass people working in Brazil, so it's a problem as well.
Lots of opportunities for you then, Karine.
Yeah, I'm trying to. We in Brazil now they have they're trying to get people back to Brazil because most of the good researchers went away because we don't have money to research and we don't have good salaries, we don't have nothing. And so they went away. So now they are trying to get money to put postdocs with a higher salary. So they are opening all over the northeast coast this job. So I'm trying to put all my students all over the area so they can actually go there and work with seagrasses. We need this. We need more people working, actually.
That was really good. Good luck. Okay, do we have any final questions, comments? Thomas. Thomas.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. First, thank you very much. It's very good talking and very awesome presentation. You guys were just talking about how seagrass in Brazil can be overlooked and lose some of the public attention. We know that manatees are very charismatic species. And you guys in the work, you pointed that the manatee project was some kind of problem for the seagrasses. Is there any possibility for the public to have a negative reaction with that kind of results? Like, if it's so, how can we deal with a negative response from the public?
Actually, Tomás, we have this problem that people were saying manatees are the main cause of seagrass. I think our paper saw it as a problem as well, but it was mixed with so many other things that actually I think it's not pointing fingers for them. But the other thing, so we cannot deny they had a part of it on it. So, but we cannot say how much part of it they had were responsible. So, I think it's actually helps because we have another more causes to talk with them because actually we work with them. I work with them as well. But I would never take this from the paper because I like people or I like them because we have to say it. But we cannot really point and say how much was caused by them. What we
Yeah,
do now is we go there and then we talk with them and then they call us to help. And then, for example, for the rupiah collection now, they are asking us for help. So it's nice. It's nice that they just don't go there and take the seagrasses. They ask, and can we do that or not? That I think it's working. At small steps, but it's working.
thanks.
Any final comments or questions? If not, I think we can let you all go. No? Okay. I have included the link to the WSA YouTube in the chat, so please feel free to visit that for the previous talks. And once again, let's all join to thank Professor Karine for her talk today. Thank you very much. And yeah, We'll see you all in the next webinar. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much.